Okay, so Sylvia Plath's the Belger. So I just finished reading the book. I read it on a plane, but it was a pretty good book. And basically, what it covers is it covers sort of topics of femininity and things like that. Basically, the whole book's about this girl, Esla Greenwood, who's supposed to be a stand-in for Sylvia Plath. So she makes a reference to it. There's like sort of like an in-joke inside it, where Esla starts writing her own novel, and she says she's going to write it about her own experiences, and she pens a character with the exact same amount of letters as her own name, Esla, which is 6 letters, which is ironically the same as Sylvia, so Esla and Sylvia. So she kind of references the fact that this is all related to her. Basically, what happens is Esla is she's interning at this like big writing place over the summer, and she's like she meets with society. She's sort of in this like big adult world while she's studying at university. Uh, it makes she makes it very clear during the book that she's extremely gifted. So she goes on about how she receives all A's throughout her entire schooling career, and that her like her sort of self-worth is predicated on the fact that she receives high grades and that she's gotten a scholarship to go to university. And so that's the whole thing. And then she's contrasted with her different friends to see sort of that like feminine ideal. So she has a friend Doreen, goes out and like sleeps with a guy, this like wild Texan guy, while she sort of watches in the background. And then there's another friend, Betsy, who's kind of docile and just sort of doesn't really. So she's presented with all these things and she doesn't know. Meanwhile, on the other hand, she has this boyfriend, Buddy, and basically, Buddy is this like perfect guy. He's smart, he's charming. He goes to like Yale, I think. He goes to Yale University. He's incredibly intelligent, and he does. I think he cuts people open. He does like anatomy, biology, that kind of thing. And so they have this thing going on. But then basically, what happens is he then tells her that he's actually slept with somebody else. He slept with a waiter that enticed him into a relationship. And that gets on her nerves, gets on her nerves a lot. And so that becomes a thing where she afterwards sort of tries to get back at him, where she tries to get into a sexual relationship, just so to say, oh, what is this like big mystery? She wants to get back at him. Like, how could he so easily just have thrown his virginity away? Like it was like nothing. Just did it with some waiter he didn't care about, he didn't like. And so that's the whole thing. Eventually, Buddy gets TB, and he has to go away. So he goes off to like a retreat for people with tuberculosis, and he gets fat, and then they just have a sort of falling out. Meanwhile, Esda eventually she goes on some dates in society. She goes on a date with this UN interpreter, Constantine. He's Russian, I think, and she also goes on a date with another guy who she steals a diamond from, and then he tries to like do bad things to her. Um, But yeah, those things don't go well. So eventually she goes back to her old home in the summer. And in the summer, what happens is she realizes that she doesn't get this writing thing, like writing, I think it's like a mentorship program. She doesn't get into it. And so she gets really bummed because everyone else is going into it. Everyone really counts her in. And she thinks, you know what? I'm just going to go focus on writing a novel now. I want to focus on learning shorthand. I want to focus on doing all these other things because I don't need these things. Which eventually leads her down into this really, really wild depression. And she doesn't sleep for, I think she says 21 days. She doesn't sleep for a long, long time. And then afterwards, she starts spiraling really deep into depression. Um, she tries to hang herself, which is, something that happens. But she also tries to eventually and almost succeeds. But what she does once, and this is sort of like the main event, is she writes a letter. She writes a note, sorry, telling her mother that she's going out for a walk. And then what happens is she goes into her box, her mother's like medicine box, pulls out a bunch of pills, and then takes them. She goes to the cemetery and then she eats like a bunch of pills, just like to eventually hope that she doesn't wake up after. And so she does that, and then we flash forward, and she wakes up and she's in the hospital. Everyone's worried about her. They're like saying, "Oh, how could you do that? Like, why did you?" And her mother's worried. She says, "Oh, like you really you went out and did that." And it gets in the news that she tries to do that. So basically, what happens after that is so Ezra Greenwood receives a scholarship at the really start of the book. It says it's from this rich woman. I've got her name, even though I've just read it, but I forgot her name because it didn't come up that much. And basically, what happens is, oh, and basically what happens is she funds her scholarship to go to university, and then she hears that she tries to, eat a bunch of pills, so to go to sleep forever. So basically, she funds her to go to this like retreat for people with mental problems, just to get better. And so she funds this, and then after when she goes, she sees it's a really, really nice facility, really expensive. It's got these big golf courses, pools. It's got people, lots of doctors working all times. It's a really good facility. So that's the facility she goes to. There's an important part where there's three facilities that are in this bell jar universe. There's a sort of metaphor of the bell jar. So that's the title of the book, the bell jar. And the whole point of the bell jar is it's the like it's this way that she describes like depression and mental illness. That it's this thing that's almost like a vapor. It's almost like it seals you and it traps you on either side, on all sides, like a bell jar. And then all you like, it can be lifted, but it's just when you're in there, you feel that when you're inside, you feel like you can't get out, no matter what. And so that's what happened. And then yeah, and eventually her thing with Buddy falls through, and she, yeah.